Hello guys, welcome to another episode of How Commands Work. Now we still haven't got onto commands yet, but I want to talk to you guys about the debug screen. What is that? That's this thing here. Now this pops up when you press F3 and it disappears when you press F3 again. So let's show you a bit of information. In the top right shows you a bit about your Java version, so I'm using 1.8 64-bit Java, and how much memory it has and how much you've allocated. It's got a little bit about your computer's specs and your resolution. Now if you didn't understand a word I said, don't worry, that's not entirely relevant to how commands actually work. The more important stuff is actually up here. Here we have the Minecraft version that we are using, our frame rate, which is how many images you see on the screen per second. Now because I'm recording, it is 30, that's how I've locked it up to, and then it says here 0 chunk updates. What is a chunk and what does it mean when it updates? Well, I've illustrated kind of what a chunk is over here. These sections here are all chunks. Now a chunk is a 16 by 16 by 256 region in the Minecraft world. This is one chunk, this whole quartz area, and this snow here is a different chunk. Now what is a chunk update? It's when the chunk literally has an update. So if I place a block down, it basically updates this entire chunk. So if I place multiple chunks down and do all kinds of crazy things, you'll see that the amount of chunk updates actually increases. Then we have this section here, T, 60. This is your maximum frame rate. You can change that here by disabling Vsync, or in the video settings there is a maximum frame rate option right here. So if we can make that unlimited, then you'll see that my T is now infinite. So now it says here Vsync and VBO. Now what is Vsync? Well, Vsync just basically locks the frame rate to a certain number for your computer's benefit. It's usually 30, 60, 90 or 120. And then VBOs. What are VBOs and how do you enable and disable these things? Well, you go to your video settings again and we have Vsync, which is on by default, and VBOs, which is also on. Now I use VBOs because when you change your render distance, it can sometimes glitch out a little bit, so I leave them on, and it also increases your frame rate by about 10%, so it's a very good idea to leave this setting on. Then we have this C here, 261 out of 10,000. So the 261 here is how many chunks I am looking at right now, how many are being rendered, and the 10,000 is the total amount of chunks in my world. So if I look directly up, you will see that goes straight down to 0 because I'm not loading any chunks. But if I look along the landscape, you will see that number will increase. And the higher that number is, the lower your frame rate will actually go. D here is your render distance, so currently I have a render distance of 12, and L, P, C, P, U and A, B are very complicated, so I'm not going to go over these this episode. E, right here, is the amount of entities in your world and how many are actually being rendered. So this 0 means I am not looking at any entities, and this 10 means there are 10 entities in the world, and then B is unused at the moment. I have no idea what it does, but it's always 0. And then I is how many invisible entities there are in the world. So because I'm not looking at these armor stands over here, the amount of invisible entities actually goes up. So if I look at the armor stands, you'll see that the invisible entities goes down to about 6, and the amount of entities that I'm actually looking at goes up to 17 because there are actually entities in the background there. Then we have P right here, which means how many particles there are in the world. Now a particle is this stuff that this redstone is emitting at the moment. So as you can see, it is emitting like this red kind of stuff. These things are called particles, and they are classified as entities as well, except you cannot detect them. And this section here, called all, is how many entities there are in the world total. Now this multiplayer chunk cache is how many chunks there will be loaded in the world at once. So I just turned down my render distance and it says 441. However, if I increase my render distance to say 16, then this number will actually increase to a whopping 1068. These next three parts are the coordinates. These are basically where exactly are you in the world. So I am moving towards in a negative x direction, and now if I move this way, the x direction is increasing. If I move up and down, that changes my y. The higher up I go, the higher my y is, and if I turn around, then this goes towards negative z, and this goes towards positive Z. Now you can see exactly where you're facing by looking at this facing thing, where it says towards positive X, and that's how I know I'm moving towards positive X rather than just looking at the coordinates. You can also see it in the crosshair in the middle of the screen. The Z is the blue, the X is the red, and the Y is the green. This part here where it says block is not your exact coordinate, but it's just roughly where you are. And then the chunk is what chunk you are in. So what one of these are you in, what one of these chunks are. And then in where you are in the chunk. And we've gone over the facing, but these two numbers are exactly where you're facing. If I move up and if I move down, you will see this second number changes. So if I move right up, then it goes up to -90. If I look right down, it goes to 90. And then if I look side to side, then this number here changes. Then we have the biome that we're in. This changes depending on what biome you're in. And then we have the light, 15. 15 from the sky and 0 from a block. Now you'll see if I place down a light emitting block, it tells you exactly how much light is being emitted from where my feet is. Okay, so yep, that's cool. And if I move closer to the glowstone, you'll see that the block light changes. However, if I put something above me, then you will see that my skylight is actually going to change. There we go, it's gone down to 14. Now if we create a large pillar like this, it goes down to 13. So if you're completely in the dark, then you will see that the light level goes completely down to 0. Next up we have the local difficulty, which is currently 1.53 out of, you'll see 0 here, and it even tells me what day it is, so we're on day 0. So if I go time add 24,000, then you'll see that it's now day 1, and now if I keep doing that, you'll see that the local difficulty will go up, because the longer you stay in a world, the more difficult it gets, so you have a higher chance that armored mobs will spawn. Now if I increase the difficulty right here, then you will see that the local difficulty actually goes up by a very large amount, and you will see that the second difficulty will also go up. Now the final thing I want to talk about is when you are looking at a block. You will see there's nothing here at the moment, but when I look at a block, you will see that this here appears, and it says I'm looking at a lapis block. So if I move here, I am looking at grass that is not snowy, so it tells you some information about the block if it's applicable. So let's go to this redstone. You can see that it's got a power of 15. It's not facing east, but it is going north to the side. It's got a power of 15, as I said, south to the side, and it's not going west. And as I move across, you will see that the directions and the power will change as well. So the power is decreasing over time as well. So that's all I want to talk about for the F3 screen. It is important, trust me. They are relevant to commands. But next episode I'm going to be showing you interesting little shortcuts that you can use, which will also help, such as this and this and this. So I will see you then in that episode. Catch ya!